Good afternoon and welcome to Today on Bay TV. We're live here in Swansea on Friday, April the 28th, 2017. I'm Gaynor Morgan. This is Henry Darby Cook.
Today we have a jam-packed show for you, but first let's kick your Friday off in style with some music from SWAT.
Must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine. You always walked a step behind. I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. I want you to know I know the truth. I would be nothing without you. You ever know that you're my hero, and everything I wish I could be? I could fly higher than an eagle, for you are the wind beneath my wings. Might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. I would be nothing without you.
Start to the show. Well, we'll move on, and we have with us Hopkins, the Mayor of Swansea, and also Shadow Secretary for Wales, Christina Rees. Thanks for joining us. Hectic times, I think.
Yeah. So we'll start with on this day. We're going to start in 2010, where former Prime Minister Gordon Brown said that he was mortified after being caught on microphone describing a Rochdale pensioner, Gillian Duffy, as a bigoted woman. Obviously, I think we can all remember this clearly. For anyone that can't remember it, here's the clip again.
Yeah, they're all...
No, we've been trying to get people back quickly. Yeah. But are they going to go to university? That's the plan?
I hope so. They're only 12 and 10.
Oh, they're only 12 and 10.
Yeah,
but they're doing well at school?
Yeah, very good.
A good family.
Yeah,
good to see you.
And the education system in Rochdale, I will congratulate it.
Good. And it's very nice to see you. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks, Gordon.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks. Take care.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Good to see you all. Good to see you. Thanks very much. That was a disaster. Well, just... Okay. Should never have put me with that woman. Whose idea was that?
I don't know, I didn't see her.
It's Sue, I think. They're just ridiculous.
The pictures. I'm not sure if they'll go with that one.
They will go with it.
What did she say?
Oh, everything. She's just a sort of bigoted woman. Said she used to be a Labour. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Mortified's got to be an understatement. Either of you ever been in such a position?
No.
I think we
not
learned
yet.
from that, there's no doubt.
Is it still talked of in Labour Party circles?
Not so much, but it's one of the classic moments. And when John Prescott hit that person who was harassing him, that was another classic.
Well, in the interests of sort of party fairness in the run-up to a general election, one of my prouder moments was making John Redwood lose his temper, really badly lose his temper. In fact, he nearly had my fingers off. And I had great delight in playing that out on air, yeah.
God.
That's just in the interest of fairness.
Well
I
done,
dropped that in,
Gaynor. Yeah.
So, Di, have you ever had someone kind of confront you and kind of want to talk about issues, potholes and one-way
Yes.
systems?
On a regular basis, believe me, it's normally very constructive normally, but now and then people do get quite irate, you know, they get quite annoyed and they frustration. So, as every other councillor and every other politician, we normally catch a brunt of it because we're available and we're always available. People, we're on the doorstep or we hold surgeries. So we tend to get, well, believe me, I think we're sometimes more like social workers than anything else. But
I think you've got a valid point there. I think people do need someone to talk to or sometimes to rant.
Somebody, and you've got to listen. And I think, you know, it might be a small issue to you, but to them, that is the most important issue of their life. And it tends to, people get frustration and because they can't get to the offices of the council, but they get to the councillors, the MPs, the AMs, it's their only point of contact. And that's why I believe local politics is so important, I believe. And I would urge people, they need to vote because that's the most frustrating thing I'm getting on the doorstep is people are saying, I don't bother voting. And very often they're the vocal ones that say that mourn the most, but in reality, they don't actually vote.
I just happen to have on my Votes for Women badge today, my suffragette badge, and I totally agree with you, you know. People should vote because then they're entering the democratic process and they're partaking in democracy. But coming back to your question, I'd much rather talk to people on the doorstep, in the street, wherever I meet them, wherever, whatever time. I'd much rather that than people who send you really nasty emails and hide behind anonymous Twitter handles and send you really awful messages. And that's the worst bit because you can't even reply to what you can't reason with
Do you allow yourself to get hurt by that sort of thing? You're a very high-profile politician by today, Shadow World Secretary.
It does hurt, but you have to try and cope with it. So I have a coping mechanism, which everyone develops over the time. And when you think about it, you can always put things in perspective. So my friend Jo Cox was murdered, and all she was doing was going to a surgery and doing her job. And so when you think about that, emails and Twitter handles and insults and everything we get, Di, that just pales into insignificance compared to Jo.
How do you handle it, Di?
It is difficult because I will be honest, I take it very personal because you try your best and with all good intentions, you try to get back to people, keep them informed, but I totally agree. I find email probably the worst means of sort of getting your point across. I'd much prefer either pick the phone up or speak to the individual to actually explain what you're trying to achieve. Because emails, people, you're right, they will hide behind the email. And I don't think it's meant sometimes the way it actually comes over. So I one of them, I believe, like yourself, it's far easier to sit, talk, and try to resolve a situation.
Be constructive.
Well, being a trade unionist all my life, I've always looked for a win-win. And I've always stated, yes, we not always agree, but there's got to be common ground. And I think that's the problem. Behind emails particularly, I find that is the worst form of communications.
Yeah, the other way I cope is I've got tremendous staff. And, you know, they're great to be with, and they sort of...
give you a coach.
Yeah, they're great. And also, sense of humour. I mean, I've got... All my staff have got tremendous sense of humour. So we see not the funny side to start off with, And then when we actually absorb it and try and cope with it, then we can
Put
see the
things
funny
in
side.
perspective.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, isn't it, Henry? Yeah.
After the break, we're going to be staying with Di and Christina, and we're going to look at today's papers.
We look forward to that. See you then. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Gaynor Morgan. This is Henry Darby Cook. We're back with Di Hopkins and Christina Rees. So thank you for staying with us.
We're going to have a little look at today's papers. We're going to start with the Metro. A lot of the papers have gone with the same story, obviously, Westminster knife terror. So this was a plot that was actually foiled, where he was caught, wasn't he, with a rucksack full of knives. Christina, you weren't in Westminster, were you, yesterday?
No, I came back on Wednesday night after Welsh Questions and PMQs. And I can't remember where we were yesterday. We were in an award ceremony for Councillor Ali Thomas, who's standing down as leader of Neath Talbot Council, and they were giving him the freedom of the borough. So we were actually in that ceremony, and somebody saw it on their phone. So we were trying to work out exactly where it was.
Pretty close on the last very frightening incident.
Yeah, the one before that was really scary when we were locked down for hours on end in the chamber. But we were in the right place and the lockdown worked. So we were very protected in there, and the police were absolutely magnificent.
Did you feel slightly more confident then?
The security has been vamped up for about a year or so. After Joe Cox, the security went up again, and we have real top security in our offices now in Neath and at home. They put all those in after Joe, but it's still sort of happening. It seems to be random.
It is random.
Sort
it's
of
wherever
random
you are,
attacks
whoever
now.
you are, isn't it?
Well, this is the thing. If we go to the eye quickly before we move on to Prime Minister's questions, they've actually got the image of the possible terrorist where he's grinning down the camera to the paparazzi. Again, it looks to be he's working alone. And it's very scary because this is the problem. The last couple over Europe, they've all seemed to be working alone. And you can't really gauge when things are happening.
No.
Because they're not talking to anyone.
No, it doesn't seem to be a planned attack. It's just a marauder.
Almost copycat, isn't it? And that's more threatening. What do you think, Di?
Yes, because, as you say, if there's a cell, if it's a working cell, intelligence can normally track it down, well, hopefully. The problem is, when you're working in isolation, yes, I think it's very, very vulnerable. But I think everything we do now, even when we're looking at redeveloping the Kingsway, we've got to take terrorism into account. We've got to plan for it, and it's quite a sad reflection where we are. It is, but as I say, after what happened with Joe, it could happen to anybody, any politician is vulnerable.
Any person, really.
Yes, any person, you're right, not just politician, because at the end of the day, his mindset was to hurt and maim or kill as many people as he possibly can.
You can think about all the
And obviously Wales are hosting one of the biggest sporting events just around the corner, the Champions League final in Cardiff. So I think everyone's kind of on tenterhooks on red alert.
People are already starting to complain that, for instance, Bute Park has all of these fences up and all the rest of it. The people who live in the city are beginning to feel it. What's the alternative?
Well, it's the weekend before the general election, and it's a fantastic tournament to have in Cardiff. And I think that the security goes with wherever you have sporting venues, wherever you have big venues now, the security comes alongside, and it's something you just have to learn to adapt to.
This week we've had Prime Minister's questions, obviously just before Parliament has closed for the elections. Obviously you were there.
The last Welsh questions, wasn't it? The last Welsh questions. Yeah. So I think we can take a look at you in action.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank all the Labour MPs for all their support, particularly the Welsh Labour MPs. The Welsh Labour Government tells me that the Joint Ministerial Committee is not listening to nor responding to the voices of the devolved administrations. It is not fit for purpose. Does the Secretary of State agree that the JMC should be given statutory powers so the Great Repeal Bill will not in any way rewrite nor overwrite devolution as set out in the recent Government of Wales Act?
Should you stay? Well, can I pay tribute to the Honourable Lady for her time that she has been Shadow Secretary of State for Wales, but underline the importance of the role that the Joint Ministerial Committee plays. Having been at those Joint Ministerial Committees, clearly there's an awful lot of discussion that takes place in the interest of the whole of the United Kingdom, and we feel that there may well be the potential to develop further, but a statutory footing is not the answer.
Nick Thomas Simmons.
Thank you, Mr.
Now, you picked up on devolution there. You're very concerned about that in the context of the Great Repeal Bill?
Yeah, the Great Repeal Bill will come before Parliament, but Mark Drakeford, who's our representative from the Welsh Government on the Joint Ministerial Committee, has been telling me, and it's a point of record because he's given evidence to the Brexit Committee in the House of Commons, that the Irish can't attend, Northern Ireland can't attend because obviously they haven't brokered an agreement yet. The Scottish government don't particularly want to listen because they want to split up the union, they want independence. So the Welsh are very frustrated because their voice isn't being heard. And Mark Drakeford is on record as describing it as a shambolic committee. No local council committee would be run without minutes, without an agenda, without firm chairmanship.
But what's your concern?
My concern is that the Great Repeal Bill, when it comes back, will grab back powers from the Welsh
without any
government.
of us realising. Is that on your radar?
Yeah, well, it's like everything else. At the end of the day, I believe politics should be delivered locally. I know that we need ministerial influence, but while we've got the Welsh Government, we need a voice. We need to be included in that decision-making. And I think, you know, it's a very important fact for Wales. And you're right. These type of there's no scrutiny sometimes either, and that's the problem we've got. These committees need to be open, and we need a voice sitting on it.
If you look at the proposals, when powers come back from Brussels to the UK Parliament, they're going to be dealt with, absorbed into UK legislation by secondary legislation. They're not going to go before the House of Commons. They're not going to be scrutinised. And that way means that there is no accountability.
Well, there isn't the time to scrutinise it.
When those powers come back to the UK Parliament, some of those powers are already devolved, like agriculture and fisheries, as you know, Gaynor. So are they now going to be grabbed back to the UK Parliament?
That's a very great concern.
It's an interesting point.
Very interesting point. What else is at risk? Obviously, I know about farming, but...
Well, virtually all the provisions that were not retained by the UK Parliament in the last Government of Wales Act. And there were 287 reservations to start off that the UK Parliament held on to. But all the matters that were devolved are now at risk, really, because obviously they have shaping on them from the Brussels, from the European
now, how is
Parliament.
the general election going to affect this? Obviously, I suppose the whoever gets returned, but, you know...
Well, May has made it all about Brexit, but it's not about Brexit. No. It's about the fact that she's got a slim majority in the House of Commons and she's worried she won't get Brexit through. She's really worried now. So she's going to the country after promising 5 or 7 times, whichever way you look at it, that she wouldn't hold an election because she doesn't need one. She doesn't need a mandate. But now she decides that she needs a mandate.
But in the context of all that, how are you going to protect some of these devolved issues that you feel so strongly about?
Well, it's supposed to be done through the Joint Ministerial Committee, but it's not working.
That's quite a worry, isn't it? I mean, really turning back the tide, turning back years.
Yeah, definitely, and it's that word accountability. I think that's the problem. We need to be accountable. We need the voice up front. And I do agree. This general election should not be about Brexit.
No.
That decision's been made. I don't know whether you like it or not, but my opinion is you're right. She's got a very slim majority. She's looked at the opinion polls, and I think she's using this as an opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, we've had 7 years of Tory policies, austerity, that they've chosen to do that. They didn't have to. They could have invested in infrastructure.
Well, one
but
of
they
the
chose
things
not
that we're trying to do in Swansea is try and reinvigorate the economy, and one of them is the lagoon. And according to the Western Mail, it could be another year before a decision's made.
Well, the rumour was that it was going to have the go-ahead in June, before the general election. And I had a meeting with Alan Keynes arranged after Welsh Questions last Wednesday, and he cancelled the meeting. So I had my suspicion then that something was...
Are we going to have a lagoon dive?
Well, I can tell you now, I've hosted a dinner party with Sir Charles Henry, the independent author of the investigation. And his words were to me, it's a no-brainer. And that was the night before the budget. And his words were, are you expecting an announcement tomorrow in the budget? And myself, the leader, said, yes, we're very, very hopeful that we will have it through the budget. And he said, I haven't heard nothing. He said, but my gut feeling is it will go through, he said, because it's got to happen, he said. And what he, in fairness to him...
Okay. Logic has little to do with it, I'm afraid, but thank you. We'll be talking to you some more after the break, so we'll have a little break now and talk to you later.
See you then. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Henry Darby Cook and this is Gaynor Morgan.
And Di Hopkins, the Mayor of Swansea, is still with us, and Shadow Secretary for Wales, Christina Rees. And I think before we get to the big topic, the elections, which is dominating everything, we were talking about the lagoon, and I think Charles Hendry's comments about it's a no-brainer. When has that ever meant anything?
He said, just get on with it. That's what he said. But in today's Western Mail, they say that there's going to be, after it's given the go-ahead by the UK government, then it has to have a marine licence. And in today's Western Mail, it said that there may be trouble getting that marine licence because they think there's a problem with the fishing aspect.
And I think natural resources wells are under pressure, aren't they? Certainly the anglers were saying this morning, weren't they, that not fit for purpose, I think, that they haven't got enough staff. Or...
But within the report, a lot of these issues were covered, were looked at. And I've got to say, this is not...
rewrite the report?
This is I know it was an independent report, this needs to go ahead. The sooner we can get that political decision, we've got the financial backing. You know, £1.3 billion worth of investment, 2,000 jobs in construction alone, and the leisure facility they can bring going forward. I think, not just for Swansea, it's the region. What it can bring to this region is huge.
And apprenticeships for colleges.
Yeah, and I suppose the worry is that the investors aren't going to hang about, are they?
Well, it's private investors, and they've got to look at their profit margin and how long they can keep that money, you know, for a project like this. And they've been very patient, haven't they?
They really have. And you're right, we will lose that investment, but what I'm concerned about, we've got the second highest tidal rise in the UK, but this will go elsewhere. Yeah. We cannot delay this project any longer. You know, I must say, in his report, he talked, and 99% of people within Swansea were positive behind it. He's never carried out a review of anything that has so much backing of local people.
And it all fits so well, doesn't it, with the city deal and all the rest of it.
And the plans are already to take one to Cardiff, to Newport and to North Wales. So they might just, you know...
Anyway, we've got bigger fish to fry at the moment.
Oh, very funny.
I think there's election, isn't there, around the corner?
There are, yeah.
So busy times, are people engaged on the doorstep? Perhaps the local election first, Di?
Yeah, obviously it was a little bit of a bombshell when Theresa May announced the national election, but bring it on at the end of the day, that's what it is. But
has it confused the picture in any way for you guys?
Yes, I'm not going to lie to you, it has. There's been... in the beginning, it was focused very, very much just on local issues. But now it's becoming more national. They want to discuss national issues on the door, which okay. But my feeling is that yes, you've gotten the brunt of that now, and you're getting the moans and that. But in reality, I must say, I think Swansea particularly has done very, very well over the last few years, and we're on the up.
You would say that, wouldn't you?
Well, no, I'm biased, but I'm very proud of Swansea. And I bear in mind, I'm a cabinet member for highways transportation. And yes, we in Swansea have had some protection from Welsh Government for many years.
We've got 2 new railway stations. Does that come into transportation?
Well, that'll fit lovely, particularly with the traffic congestions, and it will ease, particularly, hopefully we can ease some of the traffic issues.
Landor, isn't it?
Landor, and they're looking at Cocket as well. Now, that to me, we can actually, if we can get a station at Cocket, we've got one of our biggest traffics now in the mornings, particularly around Forest Park. Now, if we can get part of our integrated transport programme will be to try to get public transport better. But it's people who are used to jumping in the car. I think what we need to do is change the mindset, but the public transport has got to become a better offering. And that's key to this. And we've got a partnership agreement now with First, and hopefully we can bring better improvements and a better bus service. And I think the word is affordable.
Christina, Swansea's never had it so good. What about Neath?
Yeah, Neath and Talbot, we've got candidates in Labour, have got candidates in every ward, and we've been working hard. But I've also been around Wales knocking doors until they called the general election.
Yes, you were busily supporting the local elections.
Yeah, all over Wales. I've been to Ynys Môn, to Bangor, to Barmouth, to Flint, to Wrexham, and then further down south I've been to Merthyr, I've been to Swansea, been to Newport, Cardiff, and lots of positivity on the doorstep, you know, lots of local issues.
Does that translate, though, into people voting? Because historically, the local elections have a pretty poor turnout, don't they?
Well, I think people are very interested this time, very engaged, lots of positivity, and I think that'll bounce on to the general election because Theresa May had the audacity to come to Bridgend last week, to Carwyn Jones's seat, to Madeleine Moon's seat, to launch her campaign.
Well, she'd have been criticised if she hadn't come to Wales.
Well, she targeted Bridgend, but if you looked at the photo of the people who were there, they were all from the Vale of Glamorgan.
The cracker. I don't know what to say to that. I'm not often lost for words.
Well,
That's the first I think I've achieved today. I've never done that before.
Well done, eh?
There was something interesting at the start of the week. Tony Blair came out and said, don't vote because you have allegiances to the party, vote for what you need. I think this is quite interesting because, for one, I think Tony Blair may have got in because of allegiances to Labour, but is that still a thing? Do people vote just because they've always voted for that party? Or do people now vote because of what they need and what they should want to vote for?
I think people are a lot more discerning. They look at our policies, and that's what I think it should be about. Look at the policies and not attack the personalities. Like Boris has said some awful things, which he shouldn't. You know, you shouldn't attack people personally, and we are dying. We have to live with it, but that's not the way. Attack our policies. Look at our policies, which is fine. But yes, I mean, I'm a lifelong Labour supporter, and I always will be, because I believe in our socialist values.
But we are being urged to vote tactically, aren't we?
I would never vote tactically. I believe in the policies of the party.
What about UKIP? Are they still a threat, or are they job done?
Well, very interesting today, Paul Nuttall is going to stand in the general election. He hasn't said where yet. He's keeping us on tender hooks until tomorrow he's going to announce.
As so happens, we may be able to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Oh!
Here's a clip.
Over the years. But what I want to say about this integration agenda, which has been somehow perceived as being anti-Muslim, it's not. Actually, it's all about equality. It's all about breaking down barriers. It's all about integrating people in society. Because, as you know, a number of reports recently have shown, Trevor Phillips, Dame Casey, have shown that integration is failing. Communities are becoming more and more divided. And I would argue, and I know the headline from our press conference last week was our ban on face coverings. I would argue that face coverings prevent people from integrating fully in society. So I see it as a positive move.
What's the feeling about UKIP? They had quite a strong following relatively in Wales, didn't they?
They've only got 80 candidates in the local council elections out of 1,254 seats. So they're fading. They haven't got people on the ground. They've got, obviously, Paul Nuttall, who's still prominent, well, is prominent because he's the leader, and you've got Nigel Farage around. But I don't see why they're still around. I mean, it was all about getting out of Europe, and theoretically they've achieved that because Article 50 is there. We can't go backwards. It's been voted on. It will happen one day. How long it takes is another matter.
And
but why are they still around? They are very divisive. They're very, their comments are outrageous. Their policies are outrageous. What are they still doing here, Di?
Are they an issue on the doorstep?
Minimum, to be honest with you. I think, and I do mean minimum, but I think the policy is right. You need to judge them on policy, because I'm very much on local issues, judge on local achievements. I must say that, right? But you are right, the pattern of voting is different. Historically, you always, I voted Labour all my life. That's altering. People are now starting to take the trouble to look at policies and judge us on our policies and our achievements. I think that's the important thing. And if you look at the achievements, yes, it's job done okay with UKIP. But
if you look at UKIP, sorry to interrupt, Di, when I was in Ennismore, it was very interesting, not one UKIP candidate on the island. And they had a big push there because of Nathan Gill. In Merthyr, they had an office in Merthyr Town. Not one candidate in Merthyr.
If we can just get back to the nuts and bolts of voting, as I said, traditionally there's a low turnout for the local elections. But for those who may be becoming more engaged, can you register to vote? Is it too late?
for the local election, it's too late. I think it was the 13th of April was the thing. But for the national election, then for Westminster election, I believe you can still register. I'm not sure of the cut-off date. But more and more people are actually voting now by postal vote. Years ago, you had to have a doctor's paper to say that you needed a postal vote. That is now made simple. You can actually register for postal votes. And so, although we feel it's very quiet on the day, on particularly election days, I think we've delivered some in the region 900 postal votes in Town Hill alone. So it's quite a large proportion.
I suppose the message is get out and vote.
Yeah, and you can register to vote online. and the number of young people under 25s who have registered on the first day that the general election was announced, 25,000 youngsters
That's your
registered to
message.
vote.
Get out and vote. Get off the sofa.
Register.
So, after the break, we'll be talking with Lois John and Keith Milward. We look forward to that.
Welcome back to your final part of Today on Bay TV. I'm Henry Darby Cook and this is Gaynor Morgan.
And we've been joined by Lewis John and, of course, Keith Milward. But before we talk to you guys, let's hear from Charlotte Jones.
Heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. You don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. The baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty in the moonlight overthrew ya. She tied you to her kitchen chair, she broke your throne and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah. Hallelujah.
That all afternoon, but I guess that's not what we're here for.
Well, Lewis Simmons runs a SWAT Productions, which is South Wales Amateur Theatre. And Lewis even got me into Sin City last year. Sin City, yes, I'm a raver now. Yes. Because Lewis presented the rock musical, Rock of Ages, and has already got a reputation because that was such a good production. And now you're working on fundraisers so that you can put up on other productions then.
Well, actually, Charlotte's one of our guest singers. We've got a fundraiser this Sunday down in the Bug in Gosainon, which is Lucha Workmen's Club, which is actually just presenting some of our amazing talent that we've actually got, and we've actually managed to invite along guests like Charlotte Jones. We've also got Dan Stockton, who's an amazing singer, who's actually coming to perform with us down in the Bug. So it's a massive event on Sunday. We've also got a kids' disco that will be going on before. So it's all about promoting and getting, obviously, the message across that we're out there and that we're trying to produce and obviously show off the local talent.
Sounds
really
wonderful. It's supposed to be wet on Sunday as well, isn't it?
Exactly. So
there we go.
May as well have somewhere indoors, isn't it?
Well, it's all of the calibre of Charlotte. It's wonderful.
Well, we've got obviously, as you heard from Beth at the start of the show,
Beth Richards,
yes. Who is also one of our members. We've also got Phil Hughes. We've got Luke Coffey.
It's a great lineup.
Nyren. They're all obviously massive contenders.
So how did it all start?
Well, started back a couple of years back as LS Productions, which was a small group. We just wanted to we had a group of people that wanted to do a couple of shows, and it's just grown and getting bigger and bigger by the day. Obviously, I've got a massive backing from my choreographer and also my assistant director, Kaylee, who's absolutely outstanding. And we've also got a young boy who's, give him his dues, he's not really into acting and singing. So we thought, well, give him something to do. And he's now our sound tech.
Well, I think that's what Michael Sheen said this morning, because he's got a lot of apprentices in filming The Apostle in Markham Park, I think. And he was saying, you know, it gets people involved and they realise they don't just have to be an actor.
Or the other jobs, you know.
At the end of the day, there's always jobs out there for them to do. There's obviously the production side of it. And obviously there's a lot that goes into putting on a show. Like when we did Rock of Ages last year, we were very lucky we had the backing. And a lot of our cast members are artists and I've got previous experience then in set design and stuff like that. So the whole set for Rock of Ages was solely built by ourselves. And it literally, it's an amazing thing to be a part of. And obviously we're growing bigger and bigger by the time.
So what's your ambition? What are you aiming to achieve?
At the end of the day, it's not so much that I want to get bigger. It's more a case of just giving people, well, youngsters really, the starting blocks to do something they want to do. And like obviously Beth now, who's been with us since last year, has got that flair back then, so to speak, and has just been accepted for BIM.
So it's a launching pad as well.
It is. And at the end of the day, any amateur company out there can be a launching pad for anyone. And it makes amazing. It's a part of being a group, and it's a family, so to speak.
And it builds on a lot of other skills as well.
It does,
doesn't it? Yeah.
And like a lot of our cast members, like we'll take anyone with any age, any ability. We've got youngest from 5 years old up to the age of like 30 odd.
You've given us the venue for Sunday, the Bug in Gorsainen.
Yes.
Where's that?
It's in Gorsainen. It's Lucha Workmen's Club.
And what sort of time?
5 o'clock. We've got kids disco from 5 till 6.
Oh, I bet that's cute.
And then 6:30 till 9, we've got a family cabaret. And then we've also then, for the adults then in the evening, from 9 till late, we've got a band downstairs. So
great stuff.
To be.
And if anyone wants to get involved with you quickly, how can they get involved?
Go on to Facebook, South Wales Amateur Theatre Productions, or SWAT Productions, and you'll find us on there.
That's great. Awesome. Well, I think we're...
Enjoyed that.
Bank holiday this weekend.
Sorted.
It is. So I think it's time to close the show. Thank you to all our guests today and for all our viewers for watching, especially those who have tuned in for our Talking Pictures afternoon matinee coming up next on Bay.
Today, it's the 1967 comedy The Magnificent Two, starring Morecambe and Wise.
And I've got to mention, today is National Superhero Day.
Did anybody call for a superhero?
No.
That was a bit weird. Anyway, we'll see you Tuesday.